Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Buffalo Bills Week 7 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all of the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there will always be some fluidity in terms of keeping track of various team trends. However, there will always be little nuggets of data that can become bigger nuggets of data as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So starting with this game between the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you look at the basic stat comparisons, again, this is just general information in terms of how the offense is doing, how the defense is doing, and how special teams is performing compared to the rest of the NFL. And most of the data favors the Buffalo Bills. Most of the overall team data, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, pretty much favors the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to get into the reasons why. So, first off, when you look at the total D-score is basically the ability to prevent first downs on defense. And this more so heavily favors the Buffalo Bills. The Bills actually have a defense. I hate to put it that way, but the Bills actually have a defense that can prevent first downs and do pretty well in terms of other sort of areas. And that's kind of a big factor here. On top of that, the offense's ability, the total O score, which is the offense's ability to create first downs, heavily favors the Buffalo Bills in that respect. Turnover ratio, the Buffalo Bills do not turn over the football as much as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do on offense. Sack percentage, this is the one area where there actually is an advantage for the Bucs. The Bills have one of the worst sack percentages or sacks allowed percentages in the NFL, whereas the Buccaneers have one of the better ones when it comes to that respect. However, offensive score percentage offensive score percentage also kind of favors the Bucs as well. So again, offensively speaking, there are some advantages for the Buccaneers. They're typically able to score on every single drive compared to the Bills. They also don't allow as many sacks. And when it comes to turnovers, the Bills just don't really allow a lot of turnovers. So ultimately, you're talking about a defensive, like with the Bills, you're talking about a defensive-minded team that is very ball control heavy, doesn't create a lot of turnovers, but they're not exactly putting up a ton of points either in some of the worst ways, kind of. But they are at least an average offense. I mean, the Bills are an average offense when it comes to putting up points on the board. Then you look at defensive offensive score percentage. So the ability to prevent points heavily favors the Bills, and this is kind of where the Bills just take it. When you look at the ability to prevent points on defense, it's the Bills. When you look at the ability to create turnovers on defense, it's the Bills. When you look at the ability to create sacks on defense, it's the Bills. Getting interceptions on defense, Bills, etc. So, whereas there were some advantages for the Bucs on offense compared to the Bills, there is everything pretty much favors the Bills' defense over the Bucs. So ultimately, that's another reason why they're heavily favored, is because just the giant disparity between how the defense of the Bills performs versus the Bucs. Then you look at special teams data. So overall, special teams wise, when you look at punt return yardage, kick return yardage, pretty much in the same ballpark here between the ability to get yards with punt returns or kick returns. But defending, preventing punt returns is more so with the Bills, and preventing kick returns is more so with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And some other sort of issues to also take into account: field goal percentage. The Bills actually have a pretty decent field goal percentage. The Buccaneers, on the other hand, they're sitting at about a .16 field goal percentage, and this is compared to every single NFL team since 1998. That's not good. Same thing goes with extra point percentage. Heavily favors the Bills over the Buccaneers. You look at punting average, favors the Buccaneers as well. So overall, special teams favors the Bills. Defensive stuff favors the Bills. Offensive stuff, some of the stuff does favor the Bucs, but all three phases, when you look at all three phases, defense, special teams, those things favor the Bills. And on top of that, the Bills do not have a terrible offense. They are able to put up points. And again, all that stuff together is why the Bills are favored in this game, because when it comes to all three phases, they lose one phase to a certain extent, but they don't lose so poorly that it takes away all the other advantages they have, whether it's on defense or special teams. So ultimately, that's another sort of factor for the Bills in terms of in their favor, and that's why they're favored overall. Then we look at some other sort of matchups, so micro matchups with stuff like completion percentage, the ability to third down conversion rate, and stuff like that. So this is the Bills offense versus the Buccaneers defense when it comes to completion percentage. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but it pretty much favors the Bills here. And then you look at the Bucs offense versus the Bills defense when it comes to completion percentage. Mostly favors the Bills here. The Bucs have not had the best, offensively speaking, they've not had the best completion percentage on first, second, or third down. That's been kind of an issue for them this year, which causes some inefficiencies. Then you look at rushing downs. So this is the Bills rushing offense versus the Buccaneers rushing defense, and this is where there's going to be some issues. Heavily favors the Buccaneers defense. The one thing that works on this Buccaneers defense is their rushing defense, and I think that's going to show up again. And then when you look at the Buccaneers offense versus the Bills defense, mostly favors the Bucs for the most part. First down situations, second down situations, third down slightly favors the Bills. But overall, that's just kind of how things shake out here. And then when you look at passing down, so this is the Bills passing offense versus the Buccaneers passing defense. And as you can clearly see, pretty much favors the Bills here. And on top of that, the Buccaneers have the worst third down defense in the NFL when it comes to preventing first downs with the pass, which is not good. It's bad. So that's definitely a thing that heavily favors the Bills. And then you look at the Buccaneers passing offense versus the Bills passing defense. Actually favors the Buccaneers offense here. Despite the inefficiencies, despite the completion percentage issues, they're still able to do pretty well in terms of converting with the pass. So that's the one thing that I got to give props to the Bucs offense is that despite what the completion percentage would make you think, again, most of the time when you have a really bad or poor completion percentage, you don't really do that well converting, or at least your conversion rate isn't that well because you're having less opportunities to convert. So that's definitely kind of a surprise, I should say, because of that disparity. And then when you look at the sack rate, so this is the Buffalo Bills offense versus the Bucs defense when it comes to sacks, and mostly favors the Buccaneers offense. The Buccaneers just do not create a lot of sacks. Then you look at the Buccaneers offense versus the Bills defense when it comes to sacks, and this is actually in the Bucs' favor, except for second down situations. Almost all of the sacks that the Bills have been able to generate this year have been in second down situations. So that's, I don't know why that is, but that's just how it's been this year. So that's ultimately a matchup to kind of watch and follow. And then you look at interception ratio of the Bills offense versus the Bucs defense. Mostly favors the Bills defense. Again, the Bills do not allow a lot of turnovers. And then when you look at the Bucs offense versus the Bills defense when it comes to interceptions, heavily favors the Bills defense. And this is another sort of area that kind of hurts the Bucs is interceptions on first down and second down. These are the two areas where they're having the biggest issue when it comes to picks and stuff like that is first and second down, especially second down. That's probably the worst down in terms of giving up interceptions for Jameis Winston and this offense is second down situations. So ultimately, how do I feel about this game? Well, I'm excited about this game. In many different factors. I mean, the Bucs run defense is fun to watch, but the passing defense is not so much. So ultimately, I just got to go Bills here. I just think when it comes to all three phases, the Bills don't really have it when it comes to the Bucs, offensively speaking. But there's a trade-off here because despite the fact that the Bucs do put up points and put up more points, and they do have these other sort of stuff, they also turn the football over a lot more, and they have more issues in terms of turnovers and stuff like that, which heavily favors them in this situation. So ultimately, that's my general feelings here. I just think the Bills have a better defense. They have better special teams, especially putting up points on special teams. And I think those factors will ultimately favor the Bills. And that the Bills' offense is not amazing. If the Bills get behind in games, it's not going to save them. Like if it's like a 2-touchdown lead that they have to come back from, like that's not the Bills' game. But I think that won't necessarily be the case. I think there's going to be some turnovers. There's going to be some advantages here. to get the ball into the Bills' offense's hands, and they're going to take advantage of it. So ultimately, that's why I have to go Bills here. And of course, you can find my other work at draftcobra.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.